There's a naturally occurring compound that researchers are starting to call the longevity vitamin, even though this compound was first isolated over 100 years ago. It's not produced in any plant or animal, and most of us have never even heard of it. So, what is it? It's called ergothioneine. Now, the jury's still out on whether or not it's actually a vitamin, but there's little doubt about its ability to improve your health and possibly even extend your lifespan. So, what exactly is ergothioneine? Well, it's a naturally occurring amino acid that contains sulfur, and it's derived from histidine, an essential amino acid that's used in the biosynthesis of proteins. It's easily absorbed by the body, it's retained for long periods of time, and it seems to improve our antioxidant and anti-inflammatory defenses. Higher plasma levels of ergothioneine are associated with a decreased risk of mortality, and it appears that it might increase lifespans, at least in mice. Ergothioneine was discovered over a century ago, and its name came from ergot, a fungi that can grow on the seeds of various grasses, such as rye. And it was pretty much ignored until recently when scientists discovered that most animals, including humans, have developed a highly specific transporter protein that seems to have been designed to extract ergothioneine from foods and actively move it into tissue cells. This transporter is called OCTN1, and it gets upregulated right before mealtimes. Also, the body tends to absorb ergothioneine very efficiently and hold on to it for long periods of time. Now, this suggests that ergothioneine has an important role to play in human metabolism. It turns out that ergothioneine is a cytoprotectant, a cell protector, and it's an antioxidant. Ergothioneine collects in tissues that have high concentrations of free radicals, such as your eyes or your liver, as well as in sensitive tissues like bone marrow and semen. Researchers have discovered that when human cells are deprived of ergothioneine, it can lead to accelerated DNA damage and cell death. Now, the human body cannot manufacture ergothioneine. We can only get it from foods. This led UC Berkeley microbiologist Bruce Ames to call ergothioneine a longevity vitamin. And researchers at Johns Hopkins University have concluded that this amino acid may represent a new vitamin. Now, vitamins are traditionally characterized by the onset of specific diseases caused by a dietary deficiency, usually within a short time frame. And although no specific disease or medical condition has been observed with ergothioneine-restricted diets in animals, low ergothioneine diets do appear to lead to higher levels of oxidative stress and inflammation, and thus susceptibility to a variety of degenerative conditions. Low levels of ergothioneine in the blood have been correlated with an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, stroke, frailty, cognitive impairment, dementia, and Parkinson's disease. Now, in the test tube, ergothioneine acts as a powerful antioxidant by quenching free radicals like reactive oxygen species, or ROS. However, research suggests its main benefit in the body is boosting antioxidant enzymes already present in cells, like glutathione. Now, a study was done in Sweden back in 2020 that looked at over 100 compounds that were measured in the bloodstreams of thousands of people. And the one that was associated with the lowest risk of mortality and disease was, you guessed it, ergothioneine. Higher levels of ergothioneine in the blood were associated with a lower risk of heart disease, stroke, and death from all-cause mortality. And this was put together over a period of 20 years. Now, in a different study, an animal study in which mice were given a high dose of ergothioneine, the researchers saw increases in lifespans by 21% compared to the control group. Also, the age at which 90% of the mice died increased by 29% compared to the control group. The ergothioneine-treated mice also demonstrated less frailty, higher activity levels, and improved cognitive markers like learning and memory. Mice given ergothioneine also had less cellular senescence and less inflammation. Now, in humans, blood levels of ergothioneine tend to decline with age. At this point, it's not clear if this is due to a greater demand of the compound by the body, or poor absorption from foods, or less effective transport by OCTN1. But the age-related decline seems to be consistent across many animals. And these lower levels are also associated with age-related conditions like frailty, cardiovascular disease, macular degeneration, cognitive decline, and neurodegenerative diseases. Whether as a direct or indirect antioxidant, ergothioneine appears to help prevent DNA damage both in the cell's nuclear DNA and the mitochondria's DNA. It's also thought to upregulate a family of enzymes called the sirtuins, in particular SIRT1 and SIRT6, two of the more important enzymes when it comes to things like protection from hyperglycemia, cellular senescence, and cancer. Now, since these genes that express the enzymes are called the longevity genes, they also help with aging. Some researchers also believe that this sirtuin boost could be the result of less NAD+ depletion through oxidative stress. Now, if that's the case, ergothioneine supplementation could be yet another way to boost your NAD+ levels. Because it operates at such a basic biochemical level, ergothioneine is able to help protect just about every tissue in the body. In animal experiments, it was found to support the cardiovascular system, the brain and nervous system, the immune system, the kidneys, and the eyes. It's found in particularly high concentrations in the liver and in the blood. Its presence in the skin has led to its use in topical cosmetic products, where, once again, it seems to lower inflammation and prevent DNA damage. Okay, here's the thing about ergothioneine. The human body can't produce it, but neither can plants. Only fungi, bacteria, and other microorganisms can create ergothioneine. Now, some animal tissues and some plants do contain ergothioneine, but its presence in plants and animals relies on uptake from these sources that can actually produce it. So some animal tissues, like the liver, can contain ergothioneine, but not that much. Mushrooms, which are a fungi, are a great source of ergothioneine. The concentration in mushrooms, however, widely varies, 100-fold or more, depending on the mushroom species and the cultivation environment. To give you an idea of this range, 3 ounces of king oyster mushrooms can contain over 400 milligrams of ergothioneine, while a similar serving of white button mushrooms might only give you 5 to 10 milligrams. But even if you were eating a serving of white button mushrooms every day, you're probably going to be ahead of most people. The average estimated intake of ergothioneine in the US is about 1 milligram per day. Italians average closer to 5 milligrams a day, and maybe not coincidentally, they live about 6 years longer than their American counterparts. The concentration in other foods, especially vegetables and grains, tends to be much lower than mushrooms, but this also varies widely and is likely dependent on how much is being absorbed from fungal and bacterial production in the soil in which they grow. The amounts in animal products is even less, but tends to be relatively high in organ meats. If you eat a serving of chicken liver, for example, you might get 1 milligram or so. There's some speculation that ergothioneine could be manufactured by bacteria in the gut microbiome, which could then be absorbed by the intestines, but this is yet to be proven. Another food source that can contain a fair amount of ergothioneine is food that's undergone fermentation. Since fermentation relies on the presence of yeast, bacteria, or other microorganisms, it's not surprising that fermented foods can contain ergothioneine. Ergothioneine consumption tracks pretty well with longevity, although this might be due to the fact that ergothioneine-rich foods like mushrooms and fermented foods also tend to be health-promoting in a bunch of other ways. Finally, you could elect to just supplement with ergothioneine. Several supplement suppliers provide ergothioneine in capsule form. Most are in 5 milligram doses, but I've seen them go as high as 25 milligrams. I've also seen tinctures of ergothioneine as high as 590 milligrams, which seems like a lot. Which brings us to dosage. Now, as far as I know, there's no recommended daily dose for ergothioneine. The mouse study that I was talking about earlier used the human equivalent of 20 to 30 milligrams of ergothioneine a day. Now, that's a lot more than most of us are getting on a daily basis, even if we're including mushrooms in our diet. But it's not beyond what you could get on a mushroom-heavy diet. For example, a mere 2-ounce serving of porcini mushrooms would give you that 20 to 30 milligram dose. Now, if you choose to go the supplement route, taking 4 to 6 caps a day of the 5 milligram capsules would get you in the 20 to 30 milligram per day range. We really need more human research to get a better idea of optimal doses. Whether ergothioneine supplementation will really make a big difference for longevity in humans is still an open question. Studies in humans have really just begun, but given the promising results of other research, ergothioneine looks like one of the more promising natural compounds out there. So, if scientists like Bruce Ames or the researchers at Johns Hopkins University are correct and ergothioneine is a new vitamin, it will be the first new vitamin since vitamin B12 was isolated back in 1948. But whether or not it ever gets the label of vitamin, the evidence in its favor seems strong enough for me to include it in my supplement stack. Okay, that's it for this video. If you're interested in other compounds that might have a big impact on the aging process, check out this playlist on longevity meds and supplements. I'll see you guys next time. I'm out of here.